just the other day. He said, and I quote, "I am passionate about what I do. It is really important to me, but I do not have a chip on my shoulder. I cannot manufacture that. I do not want to." Wyatt, does does having a person on your team that like doesn't have like that chip on his shoulder to like be great, does that make you not want to draft him?
No, I don't. I don't necessarily think having the chip on your shoulder determines you being good or bad. A guy like Tom Brady, Baker Mayfield, those guys have chip on their shoulders because they were slept on all the time. Trevor Lawrence has been the number one quarterback in the nation for his class since he was in like sixth grade, guys. So he's never had to have that chip on his shoulder. He's always been good. He's always performed well. He's always performed better than everybody else. So he's never had to have that. Where Baker Mayfield, just using Baker as an example, had it was a 3-star in high school, only had, I believe, 2 or 3 offers, I think, something like that. Turned them all down, walked on to Texas Tech, left Texas Tech, walked on to Oklahoma, got himself all the way up to the starter at Oklahoma, won a Heisman. He's always had that, keep that same energy mindset, and he's always had that chip on his shoulder. Tom Brady, didn't start hardly at all at Michigan. And then, he was the 199th pick in the NFL draft. Turns out he's the GOAT. So, when you look at guys like that, they have that chip on their shoulder. But whenever you look at guys like Trevor Lawrence, I don't think it hasn't affected his play yet. Would you like to have a guy that has a chip on his shoulder in a sense? I mean, I think it's good and bad, because I think in that sense, when you have a guy who has a chip on his shoulder, he spends more time talking about that chip on his shoulder than he actually does proving that chip on his shoulder. Tom Brady and Baker Mayfield are perfect examples of that. You don't hear Tom Brady every 10 seconds talking about the chip on his shoulder and how, oh, well, he was overlooked in high school and he was actually going to be a baseball player and then switched. But you hear Baker Mayfield talking, not throwing any shade at Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield's a really good quarterback, but you hear Baker Mayfield talk about it a lot. I think that has to do with maturity. So I don't necessarily think that it will affect his draft. I don't think it'll affect his draft stock at all. I mean, the Jaguars have already, I did some research on it last night. The Jaguars have already given him a playbook. Like,
Okay, pause.
It's
They all the top 5, top 6 teams always give any top prospects a watered down playbook.
no. He's the only one he's gotten a full playbook, and he's the only person they've actually given a playbook. The Jaguars actually confirmed it too.
Yeah, but I'm sure the 49ers have given him a playbook. The Falcons have given him a playbook too. I mean, it
I
happens
don't know
all the
if you
time.
give that out like that though.
Every top 5 or 6 teams gives a watered down basic formation package of their playbook. It happens every year. So I mean that's not a big deal to really look into. Combs, do you want a quarterback on your Chicago Bears that has a chip on their shoulder?
I want a quarterback, period. I want any player coming out of the draft to have a chip on their shoulder. I want them to know that they have to prove that they are what they say they are. And this is another red flag for me with Trevor Lawrence. This is another reason why I feel like this kid is just going to be a bust in the NFL. You don't have a chip on your shoulder, so what you're telling me is that you're coming into whatever team drafts you with no worries in the world because you think you are the best player to ever step on the field.
Confidence. I want my quarterback to have confidence.
That's not confidence, that's stupidity.
That is confidence.
You need to have a chip on your shoulder to go out there and be like, look, I'm going out there and I'm going to prove to everybody that I am everything that I was, that I was promoted to be. I am that number 1 draft pick. I am the guy who, if you wanted to build a prototype for a quarterback, you would build me. And I'm going to show everybody that. I'm going to go out there. Tom Brady won 7. I'm going to win 8. I want that chip on. If you don't have a chip on your shoulder, you don't have anything to play for.
Yeah, like it is almost like you are walking into the NFL, meaning like you have nothing to prove. Like, do you get that sense at all, Wyatt? Like, he says like he doesn't have anything to prove.
Well, he didn't say he had nothing to prove. He just said that he doesn't have that chip on his shoulder. I don't even know what he was trying to get at. I mean, he's just saying he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. I think that people are diving too far into it. I think it's just that, he's never been slept on. Everybody's praised him. I think he's got confidence in a sense. And you are right. Sometimes that is stupidity, but sometimes stupidity and confidence can go together, like peas and carrots. Sometimes it's a good thing, and I'm telling you, this kid's got the X factor. He is 100% the best player in this
bust
draft.
factor.
Is the X factor being too confident / cocky going into the Jacksonville Jaguars, Combs?
He is not cocky.
How
Sorry, you
he's
said
not
Combs. I didn't hear that.
Look, he might be a guy who's got a chip on his shoulder or doesn't have a chip on his shoulder because he knows he's going to Jacksonville and they're not going to win for the next 20 years anyway. Maybe that's why he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. Maybe he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder because he knows, hey, whatever money I'm making the next 5 years in the NFL, I'm stealing it anyway. So,
Right.
Maybe that's why he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. Doesn't have a chip on his shoulder because he's always had everything handed to him. And this kid is not built for the NFL, and we're going to see that here starting this season.
Why? What are your thoughts about that? Not built for the NFL.
Telling you, man. Just as long as they give him a good O-line and he's got some decent weapons around him, Trevor Lawrence will be successful wherever he is.
Jacksonville Jaguars.
So
good O-line and decent weapons. Good.
He's got some decent weapons.
Weapons are there.
Chark's a heck of a receiver.
The
Keelan
weapons,
Cole's a good receiver.
So
James Robinson's a great running back.
So then he has no excuses to not be good this year, right?
Well, he doesn't have an O-line.
That's what you're saying, right, Wyatt? He has no reason to not be
I said
good
he's
this year.
got decent weapons. I said he still needs an O-line too.
But that's what you said.
Joe
You said
Burrow had decent weapons, but had no O-line. We saw what happened to him. He tore his ACL.
Okay, so what you're doing right now is hedging your bets, right? Here comes
I'm
the
not
waffle
hedging anything.
Wyatt.
I'm telling you.
Here comes
I just
waffle
gave you a
Wyatt.
comparison for him.
Yeah.
He's Joe Burrow.
So tell me he's got no reason to not be good this year.
He doesn't have it. He does have reasons to not be good. He's playing for Jacksonville.
Why? But they got decent weapons. You just said it.
They got decent. I said he needs good weapons and a good O-line.
No, you said.
Now
you're
and a
changing
terrible O-line.
all right.
Man Hour Nation, thank you for checking out that clip. If you're interested in watching the full show, the link is in the description. Click on it, hit that like button, share it with a couple friends, and as always, Man Hour Nation, rise up.